Hi, I'm Ann Coulter. Welcome to my Substack. I have the great Gregory Mantell back again. He wrote, you may remember, I did an interview with him on the greatest book I've ever read called Special Victim Status, The Era of Woke Journalism, which really blew me away. It goes through a lot of the famous cases. The Ahmaud Arbery case was the one that, I don't know, that's chapter 2, totally blew me away. And I wrote a column about it. But it's just page after page of stunning and deeply researched facts about basically, how the media is utterly racist and how it reports crimes, both who commits the crime, the victims of crimes, that sort of thing. And now we have, on his Substack, he's been doing his similarly in-depth reporting on many of the immigration aspects we've been talking about. So welcome, Gregory.
It's great to be back, Ann. I really appreciate it. And everybody needs an Ann Coulter to promote their book like that. I really appreciate that. What can I say? I'm blown away. But I'm so glad that, someone like you got it, and understands it. So that really means a lot to me.
It's an amazing book. And incidentally, Gregory asked me right before we started taping, oh yeah, what are we talking about? I never answered that question. This is the order I thought we'd go in. Your investigation into Springfield, Ohio, site of the alleged cat eating, is totally hilarious. So we're starting with that one. Then we're going to do the ICE arrests. And then we're going to do something that I covered heavily in my book, Adios America, because I'm enraged the government won't just tell us, and that is immigrant crime, particularly compared to citizen crime. But as you, I, and everyone watching should know, it's not good enough, even if it were true when it's not, that immigrants commit less crime than Americans do. See, we want immigrants who commit no crime. We can go out and get any immigrants we want. So even if they committed only the same number as Americans do, it's like all the food in your refrigerator is rotten. So you go out to get new food. Well, we may as well just get rotten food because the food we have in the refrigerator is already rotten. No, we're now getting new food. We're getting new people to our country. You know how many criminals we want?
Right. That's not really the standard. There are other ways of thinking about it besides just, the crime rates. But we'll get into that, though, definitely.
So Springfield, he's written about this on his Substack, which I will link to. But it may be the name of the book, Special Victim Status. Go through the Springfield stuff, but it's because it's hilarious.
Well, and I don't want to say I've rushed this a little bit because I wanted to tell you where I was, because you'll see that the town of Springfield has not been very cooperative. So I didn't have everything today that I wanted to have for you, but I can tell you what I have so far. And mostly, Ann, well, first of all, I grew up in Ohio. And to hear this was happening in Ohio, I was just astounded, although I lived in big cities for years, that this fairly small town in Ohio, 60,000 people, has, 10,000 plus immigrants from another country was just astounding to me. I expected in Los Angeles or Chicago or something, but I really hadn't heard that. So I wanted to know what was going on. And as I did, and sorry, I feel like I'm plugging the book the whole time, but in Special Victim Status, literally, it is all about the news coverage of crime. And so I did a lot of research into crime statistics and talking to the FBI and this sort of thing. And so I wanted to see for myself the data. So I did two things. I went to the FBI Crime Data Explorer and pulled up the Springfield figure just to see what does it show. Because honestly, I knew you cannot believe what the media says. When CNN starts their fact checking about Springfield, I could get into what I think about some of the fact checkers that I see. In fact, I'm going to start fact checking some of the fact checkers. One of my calls, I'm going to tell you about all the lies that I've heard from ABC, NBC, CBS. I mean, all of them. I could go through and debunk so many things. But
that could be your next book. I've always thought that would make a great book.
I was going to call it
Debunkers.
Fact checkers and other liars, is what I would call it. So for Springfield, so I wanted to see, what did the FBI statistics say? And so when I went to look, well, first of all, it just didn't make any sense. And so in the same time, so the city was sending me stuff. I made a lot of public records requests to the city of Springfield, some of which, after more than 5 weeks, they still haven't answered. So, by the way, I did ask them about the cats and the dogs things. I said, I want 911 calls, police reports, anything you've got, 5 weeks later, they still haven't answered it. So yesterday, I sent a notice of impending lawsuit to the city and said, if you don't respond immediately, I'm going to take you to the Ohio Court of Claims, which is how in Ohio you can appeal public records requests. I was going to sue them. And so the next day, I heard from the city attorney saying, the police department contacted me and said, you've got all these outstanding FOIA requests, free or public records requests in Ohio, whatever they call it there. But but so the other thing I did, I asked them for.
So wait, they called you, but when are you going to get the 911 calls about cats? Are they going to give it to you?
Their attorney
November
told me to get back to
6th?
me early next week, and I said, I'm at the end of the time I'm going to wait, and I really will file in the Court of Claims. It does take some time to go through the whole process, but if I don't hear from them very early next week, I will file immediately. And I think that because that stuff. So the other thing I asked for were mugshots and the arrest reports of who's committed murders in
Now
Springfield.
explain why it is you need that, because that's the hilarious part.
So they send me their crime reports, and it shows, the number of homicides, but that's it. I mean, that's all the information. No demographics, no anything, just a number. So I'm wondering, well, who's committing these crimes? What's the I looked up the racial demographics of Clark County and Springfield, and it's true. In the U.S., Black people commit more homicides than white people do, and I saw that Springfield has a fairly sizable Black population. So I knew. Oh well, no. The other thing is, so I went to the Crime Data Explorer. The numbers weren't matching what the police reports showed, annual reports. They were lower. In fact, it looked as though there were no murders in the past couple of years. And the numbers just did not add up. So I finally said to the FBI, what's going on? And they said, if the agency reports it, we publish it. So, okay, that took the FBI out of it. So I started asking Springfield, are you publishing this stuff? Are you reporting it every year to the FBI? But at the same time, I started reading some of the media reports, and I saw a news report. I didn't send this to you. I didn't have time to look it up. I'm going to do a FOIA request for this as well. Their city spokesperson told a major newspaper or major network that we track the demographics they track is if they're Hispanic or not. Well, I thought,
right,
that's ethnicity. That's not race.
Right.
So I emailed the city spokesperson.
So this is that Laura Grove, right?
Karen Graves, I believe is her name.
No, she is a piece of work.
Diversity and inclusion officer.
Really, voluntarily and involuntarily, she's become a DEI expert.
Oh, well, and that whole county, by the way, everybody there is a DEI expert, I've discovered. I've never heard so much social justice rhetoric from the jail, from the police, from the city spokesperson. Everybody there is a DEI person. But I looked at, so the FBI, normally one of the first things I would do is look at the race of the victim and offenders and victims for homicides. And there was no race data, basically. There were a few.
But say what it was they told you when you asked.
In the report to the FBI, it says not identified and unknown. And maybe 2 or 3 said Black or white, but that was only a small percentage. But for victims, it showed most of the victims were Black. So I knew, because again, in the United States, most people are killed by people of their own race. 90% of Black people are killed by other Black people, and about 85% of white people are killed by white people. So I knew when I saw that most of the murder victims in town were Black, that I knew that Black people statistically, it's possible there's a rare fluke, but statistically it's more likely than not that meant that most Black people were committing most of the murders, even just from that figure alone, even without the city hiding the numbers and failing to disclose it.
Well, that explains why they're hiding the numbers.
Yeah. So I asked the spokesperson, I said, why aren't you reporting these numbers? It's in the book. As I say, I talk a lot about crime statistics. I've done FOIA requests with the FBI and asked for the methodology. So I know how the FBI, they use the OMB office, the White House Office of Management and Budget guidelines from the 1970s for tracking race, Black or African American, white, American Indian, Asian, and Pacific Islander, unknown, and then ethnicity is Hispanic or not Hispanic. So the city of Springfield, Karen Graves tells me, per the FBI, we report Hispanic or not. And I said, well, that's not race, that's ethnicity. And she said, well, let me check with the police department. I'll get back to you. Never heard from her again about that. And so in the meantime, I was talking to the police public records department, and I said, so why aren't you reporting race? And they said, per FBI or NYBRG's guidelines, I put it on the Substack. I've got a picture of the email because I thought people might not believe me. I put a picture of the email. It says, we track Hispanic or not, or no, it says we don't track race per, this is the police department saying, yes, we don't track race per FBI guidelines. Mm-hmm. Now, this is astounding. Every liberal, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, every major crazy liberal city in the country reports race to the FBI. They've been doing it for decades. This is
Yes,
standard
and
stuff.
moreover, as you say, and as you know, it's not just that the FBI doesn't tell you not to collect race. No, they
It's
insist, they
mandatory, right?
require that you report the race. And every single person you talk to in Springfield said, "Oh no, we're just following the
Oh
FBI
yeah, and I
guidelines.
have
We're
the
not allowed."
FBI national spokesperson from the National Press Office for the FBI, because I told him, I said, a local agency is telling me you only track Hispanic or not. And so the FBI responded and said, per NIBR's guide, the National Incident-Based Reporting System, that's NIBR's, how they report crime. Again, the guidelines are Black or African American, white, American Indian, Asian, and Pacific Islander, unknown, various things, and then I got ethnicity, Hispanic or not. And then I asked her, because ethnicity, by the way, is optional. And that becomes an issue because often agencies don't report ethnicity. And so when you hear white figures, it really means white and Hispanic. White and
Yep.
Hispanic are inextricably blended in the FBI statistics because a lot of agencies don't report Hispanic or not.
You can watch complete episodes of Unsafe with Ann Coulter by subscribing to anncoulter.substack.com. That's anncoulter.substack.com. You can also listen to complete episodes for free at Ricochet.com. Choose Unsafe from the pull-down menu at the top of the page. That's Ricochet.com, your home for civil center right conversation on the web.